It was a crisp, sunny morning in Manhattan, the kind of morning where the city buzzes with energy and every passerby seems to be rushing towards something important. Inside the sleek, glass-walled studio of the Today Show, the atmosphere was anything but ordinary. The hum of cameras, the shuffling of producers, and the low murmur of crew members setting up equipment created a palpable tension, one that only escalated as the clock ticked closer to live broadcast. Victoria Beckham, fashion icon, designer, and former Spice Girl, was sitting elegantly in her tailored black blazer, legs crossed, her hands resting calmly on her lap. Her expression was the epitome of composure, but those who knew her could tell from the slight tightening of her jaw and the flicker in her eyes that something was simmering beneath the surface. Across from her sat Jenna Roberts, a rising social media influencer known for her bubbly personality, bright smile, and an almost reckless charm that could light up, or complicate, any room. Jenna had brought along two close friends, Lisa and Mark, their presence amplifying both the excitement and the potential for chaos. The segment was supposed to be a light-hearted discussion about style, celebrity parenting, and the latest trends in London and New York fashion. Yet, from the moment the cameras started rolling, the tone shifted. The host, a seasoned journalist named Emily Collins, began with a warm smile. "Victoria, we're thrilled to have you back on the show. Everyone's eager to hear about your latest collection and your thoughts on the upcoming fashion week." Victoria smiled politely, her voice calm and controlled. "Thank you, Emily. It's always a pleasure to be here. Fashion is ever evolving, and I enjoy bringing a bit of London style to New York." But then, Jenna chimed in. Her tone, playful but tinged with sarcasm, immediately set the stage for tension. "Victoria, if we're being honest, a lot of people have been saying your style has become a little safe. Don't you think it's time to take some risks?" The studio fell silent for a heartbeat. Even the crew seemed to pause, unsure if they should intervene. Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly, and she tilted her head, her response measured but sharp. "Jenna," she began, her voice cool, "I appreciate opinions, but I design clothes that I believe in. Risk is relative, what works for one person might not work for another." Jenna's friends, sensing the rising tension, exchanged quick glances. Mark leaned forward, attempting to defuse the moment. "Hey, it's all just discussion, Victoria. No need to get defensive." But Victoria had already felt the line crossed. What started as a friendly interview had morphed into a public critique of her taste and her career, a critique delivered by someone barely 2 years into a social media career, someone she felt lacked the experience to comment on decades of work in fashion. "Emily," Victoria interjected, her tone polite but firm, "if it's all right, I'd prefer to continue without turning my career into a debate for entertainment purposes." The tension in the studio was now almost tangible. Jenna, sensing the pushback, leaned forward, her smile fading into something sharper. "Oh, come on, Victoria. We're just saying what people are thinking. Don't tell me you can't handle a little honesty on live TV." It was the final straw. Victoria's composure, maintained for years under intense public scrutiny, cracked just slightly. She stood up abruptly, the sound of her heels clicking sharply against the studio floor. "Actually," she said, voice rising, though still controlled, "I think this conversation has gone far enough." Gasps echoed through the studio. Emily's eyes widened, caught off guard, and the camera operator fumbled slightly, trying to keep the shot steady. Victoria didn't wait for further debate. She turned on her heel, her long coat flaring behind her, and walked toward the exit. Jenna and her friends watched, mouths open, as Victoria's figure disappeared through the glass doors. The murmur of the audience, initially polite, rose into shocked whispers. Outside, the New York air was sharp and brisk. Victoria paused for a moment, taking a deep breath, and then continued down the street, Jenna and her friends trailing at a respectful distance. The silence between them was heavy, each lost in their own thoughts. "What just happened?" Lisa finally asked, breaking the quiet, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. Jenna, unusually subdued, shook her head. I didn't think she'd actually walk off. She's Victoria Beckham. People don't just walk off live television." Mark added, "You know, maybe we pushed it too far. She's got decades in the industry, we're just 4 kids in comparison." Victoria, overhearing them, didn't respond immediately. Her mind was already moving forward, Thinking about the segment, the way her words had been twisted, and how easily her reputation could be overshadowed by a fleeting moment of confrontation. Yet beneath the frustration, there was also clarity. She had stood her ground. She had not allowed the narrative to be hijacked. That, in itself, was a victory, even if it meant leaving the studio in a dramatic fashion. Meanwhile, back inside the studio, chaos erupted. Emily tried to recover the segment, attempting to redirect the cameras and the audience. And, moving on, let's talk about some exciting new trends this spring, she began, but the energy had shifted. The moment Victoria Beckham walked off would dominate social media, headlines, and gossip for days to come. Producers huddled together, whispering rapidly into headsets, trying to decide if they should cut to commercial or continue with Jenna and her friends. The network executives, watching from a remote room, were already preparing damage control statements. For Victoria, the experience was a reminder of the harsh realities of fame. Public appearances, no matter how controlled, could spiral into unpredictable territory in a matter of seconds. Yet she refused to let it define her. Walking off had not been an act of anger, it was a statement. She would not compromise her integrity for the sake of entertainment. As she stepped into the waiting car, the driver noticing her tense posture, Victoria exhaled slowly, allowing the rush of adrenaline to subside. Jenna and her friends climbed in after her, offering tentative apologies, but Victoria simply nodded, her mind already planning her next move. "This isn't the end," she said softly, more to herself than to anyone else. "It's just the beginning of setting the record straight." Little did anyone know, that day would mark the start of a media storm unlike any Victoria Beckham had faced before. Headlines would dissect every word, social media would explode with opinions, and fans and critics alike would debate the confrontation endlessly. But Victoria, ever composed and strategic, was already thinking 3 steps ahead, ready to turn controversy into an opportunity, tension into triumph. And as the car pulled away from the studio, the bustling streets of Manhattan seemed to quiet around her, almost in deference to the force that was Victoria Beckham, a woman who had walked off a live television set, not out of anger, but out of unwavering conviction. The moment Victoria Beckham exited the Today Show, the ripple effect was instantaneous. By the time she reached her Manhattan hotel, notifications on every device had blown up. Twitter was ablaze with hashtags like #VictoriaWalksOff, #JennaBeClashing, and #TodayShowDrama, each trending. Within minutes, Instagram stories showed shaky camera clips of Victoria's elegant yet decisive exit, with captions ranging from admiration to outrage. Inside the hotel suite, Victoria's assistant, Claire, was already managing the incoming media calls. "Victoria, the networks are calling, social media is on fire, and every major tabloid is drafting headlines," she said, scanning her tablet. Victoria, seated calmly on a velvet armchair, allowed herself a small sigh. "Good. Let them talk. I've spent decades building my name, a few hours of headlines won't undo that." Meanwhile, Jenna and her friends were less composed. Huddled in their shared Airbnb, they scrolled frantically through feeds, tweets, and TikTok reactions. "This is insane," Jenna said, her voice shaking. "She walked off live TV. I mean, she didn't just leave, she made a statement." Lisa added, "It's everywhere. People are defending her, mocking us. I don't think we're going to survive this online." Mark, trying to inject calm, leaned back. "We need a plan. Maybe we issue a public statement apologizing for being too forward." But Jenna shook her head. "No, we were honest. I don't regret what I said. Maybe we just ride it out." Back at Victoria's hotel, her team was already drafting a strategic response. They knew the media would push the narrative of conflict, but Victoria wanted to control the story before speculation spiraled. "Claire," she said, voice calm but commanding, "prepare a statement. Keep it elegant, acknowledge the disagreement without attacking anyone. I walk away when I feel the conversation isn't productive, but that doesn't mean I'm angry. Let's remind everyone why we respect professionalism." By the afternoon, her statement was released. It read, "I value open discussion and appreciate diverse opinions. However, there are moments when conversations shift from constructive to unproductive. In those moments, it's important to remain true to oneself and one's values. I look forward to continuing positive, meaningful conversations in the future." The statement instantly went viral, praised for its composure, clarity, and diplomacy. Celebrity news outlets analyzed every word, comparing Victoria's response to past celebrity controversies. Fashion bloggers called it the masterclass in handling public pressure, while late-night hosts referenced the walk-off in monologues, some joking, others admiring her decisiveness. Yet the storm wasn't confined to traditional media. TikTok creators began reenacting the scene, with dramatic flair, slow-motion exits, and comedic captions. Memes circulated with captions like, "When someone questions your empire," and, "Victoria doesn't debate, she dominates." For Jenna, the reaction was mixed. Some praised her bravery for speaking her mind, others criticized her for provoking one of the most respected icons in fashion. Her follower count skyrocketed overnight, but so did the negative comments, ranging from mild teasing to outright hostility. Despite the chaos, Victoria remained focused. She spent the evening reviewing designs for her upcoming collection, phone muted, surrounded by sketches, fabrics, and mood boards. The world outside could speculate, tweet, or post memes. Inside her creative space, she was untouchable. That night, in an interview with a major fashion magazine, Victoria reflected on the confrontation without ever mentioning names. "In life and business," she said, "you'll face challenges, differing opinions, and sometimes disrespect. The key is knowing your limits, maintaining your values, and walking away when necessary. That's not weakness, it's strength." Her words resonated widely. Fans admired her composure, younger designers took note, and even celebrities sent private messages of support. The narrative began to shift. Victoria Beckham wasn't just a fashion icon, she was a symbol of grace under pressure. Meanwhile, Jenna and her friends were navigating the aftermath in a very different way. Each notification brought a mix of excitement, anxiety, and regret. "I didn't mean for it to blow up like this," Jenna confessed to Lisa. "I thought it'd be a funny segment, just some debate. Not this." Yet even in the chaos, Jenna realized something important. Victoria's reaction, her unwavering confidence and refusal to be provoked, was a lesson in professionalism and personal boundaries. It was a reminder that honesty, when not tempered with respect and timing, could create unintended consequences. Over the next few days, the story dominated headlines. Talk shows debated the confrontation, fashion experts dissected every comment, and social media continued to churn out endless memes. Yet Victoria Beckham emerged unscathed, even stronger, her brand untouched, her influence growing. She had turned a moment of tension into a demonstration of elegance and control, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful statement is not words, but action. And as the dust settled, one truth remained clear: Victoria Beckham had walked off the Today Show, but she had walked into history. A moment that could have been chaos instead became a masterclass in handling pressure, in maintaining dignity, in proving that grace, confidence, and timing are just as important as talent. For Jenna and her friends, the lesson was different, but equally valuable. They had encountered someone who commanded respect, someone who refused to be undermined, and someone who had turned a confrontation into a legacy. In the days to come, the public would continue to debate, comment, and speculate. But Victoria Beckham, she would continue her work, design her collections, and move through life with the same poise that had led her to walk off a live show, and walk away victorious. The confrontation was over. The headlines had been made. And Victoria Beckham, once again, had shown the world that she was untouchable, not because she avoided challenges, but because she faced them on her own terms.